My sister threw me a surprise party just to announce she was marrying my fiancé. Your ceremony works for me, she said. Well, glad you paid already. He just winked and said, honestly, we just wanted an audience. I nodded, handed over a box, and said softly, open it later. My little cousin got curious and opened it. Inside, the cottage deed in my name, signed 2 years ago. You're going to love this surprise, she giggled, pushing me toward the backyard with both hands clamped on my shoulders. It's your big day after all. I wasn't expecting a party. Not that day. Not in that moment. I was supposed to be finalizing seating charts with our wedding planner and obsessing over floral arrangements, not standing in my mother's backyard, surrounded by 50 people yelling, surprise, while my sister beamed like she just cured cancer. The string lights twinkled. The champagne was flowing. Our friends, our relatives, even the photographer I'd hired for my own wedding were here, snapping candids. My fiancé, Luke, stood beneath a floral arch, but something felt off. Too grand, too staged. And why was Luke wearing the exact suit we picked out for our ceremony? I turned to Emma, my sister, my supposed best friend, and tried to speak. Before I could get a word out, she snatched the mic from the DJ. Thank you all for coming, she announced. I know some of you were expecting a bridal shower for my dear sister, but surprise, it's actually an engagement party. For me. There was an awkward silence. My chest felt tight, and I'm marrying Luke. The world blurred. I heard gasps. My legs turned to cement. Luke stepped forward, grinning like a fool. Your ceremony works for us, he said, shrugging. Glad you paid already. Someone laughed nervously. Emma tucked her hand into his. We just wanted an audience, she added sweetly. That's when I knew they'd planned this together. The stolen venue date, the guest list, even the food which I paid for. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Instead, I walked up to Luke, smiled, and handed him a small wooden box. Open it later, I whispered, then turned and walked away. But my little cousin got curious. She opened the box an hour later. Inside, the deed to the cottage I'd inherited from our grandmother, in my name, signed 2 years ago. And I wasn't done yet. They say hindsight is 20/20. But when the people you trust most set you up like prey, even hindsight feels like a cruel joke. A week before the surprise party, Emma was at my apartment, barefoot, sipping wine like nothing was wrong. She was wearing my hoodie, not borrowed, stolen the same way she'd slowly been absorbing pieces of my life. You're so lucky, she said, flipping through my wedding planner. Luke's such a catch, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I chalked it up to envy. Now I realize it was foreshadowing. For years, I was Emma's safety net. When she dropped out of art school, I helped her get a job at my office. When she maxed out her 3rd credit card, I helped her budget. When she sobbed after her 3rd breakup in 6 months, I was the one who picked her up, fed her, and let her crash on my couch. I gave, and she took. When I got engaged, she cried harder than I did, claimed it was happy tears, insisted on helping with every detail. It's your big day, she'd say while gently nudging me into letting her handle the vendor calls, the flower orders, even the venue visits. Less stress for you. And I, tired from work, grateful for her help, let her. But looking back, it all feels like surveillance. A thief taking inventory. 3 weeks before the party, I noticed Luke was becoming distant. Not cold, just vague. When I asked about the tux fitting, he said, whatever you like, babe. When I mentioned writing our vows, he changed the subject. I figured he was overwhelmed. Weddings are a lot. I didn't want to be a nag. Meanwhile, Emma was practically living in my apartment, claiming she was so excited to see it all come together. One night, she was in my closet trying on shoes, my wedding shoes. She twirled in front of the mirror, just seeing how they photograph. She laughed. You never know with white heels. I laughed too, but something twisted in my gut. Then the venue called. Hi, is this Emma? No, I replied. This is her sister, the bride. There was a pause. Oh, I'm sorry. We've been dealing mostly with Emma for the final arrangements. I stared at the wall. My heart dropped. Final arrangements? Yes. The deposit's been paid. Ceremony date moved up to Saturday. Wait, what date? Saturday. My date. I hung up mid-sentence. My fingers felt frozen. I pulled up our joint wedding account. Nearly empty. $11,000 gone, labeled as event costs. And Luke? He had just Venmo'd Emma $500. The note reading, for the dress. That night, I called him. Luke, Did you authorize the venue change? He was quiet. Emma handled it. She said you were overwhelmed. My stomach turned. You mean to tell me you gave her control over our wedding? He sighed. She's your sister. She said you approved it. My hands trembled. My heart pounded. And the money? We just moved a few things around, he said lightly. Don't overreact. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat down at my desk, opened my file drawer, and pulled out an envelope labeled Grandma's cottage deed. The one thing Emma always thought was still being sorted. The one thing I never told her was already mine. 2 years ago, after Grandma passed, she left her lakeside cottage to me. Emma, who was abroad at the time, never showed up to the funeral. She never knew I had the deed notarized and stored, fully paid off, in my name. I hadn't planned to reveal it, not yet, but now it would be the first domino to fall. My family always said Emma was the light of the room, the charming one, the spontaneous spirit. I was the planner, the stable one, the boring older sister. Funny how the boring one built the wedding, paid for the venue, funded the honeymoon, chose the dress, bought the ring insurance, and funny how the charming one stole it all. But what Emma didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I was done playing quiet. They were going to get their moment, and I was going to flip the script. The backyard glowed like a dream. Strings of fairy lights, rose petals scattered along the aisle. A string quartet softly played the exact song I picked out 6 months ago. Our song, or so I thought. Emma stood under the floral arch I designed, in a dress that mirrored mine almost stitch for stitch. Beside her stood Luke, in the very suit I purchased and picked out with him. He looked calm, smug even. The guests' mutual friends, family, co-workers sat in their chairs like an obedient audience. Most didn't know, some did. I saw it in their faces when I walked in, because I didn't just walk in. I arrived, all black, long coat, hair pinned back, calm, composed, not broken, not anymore, not crying, not confused. I walked straight down that aisle like I owned it. Because in every meaningful way I did. Gasps spread through the air like sparks in dry grass. Emma's face drained of color. Her grip on Luke's arm faltered. Luke blinked, then forced a half smile. Didn't expect to see you here, he said lightly. Oh, I said, pausing under the arch. I wouldn't miss it. After all, I planned it. The silence was absolute. Then I turned to the crowd. I want to thank everyone for coming. I know many of you were invited under misunderstood circumstances. So, let's clear things up, shall we? I took a breath. This wedding, the location, the guest list, the caterer, the musicians was originally meant for me and Luke, my fiancé. Until I learned, exactly 1 week ago, that my sister and my fiancé had decided my wedding was more convenient for them. Somebody whispered, "What is going on?" A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Emma stepped forward. "This isn't the place, okay? We didn't mean for it to happen like this." I held up my hand. "Don't you dare try to make this sound accidental. You forged contracts. You drained our joint account. You used my name to confirm vendors. You knew what you were doing." I loved him, Emma said quietly, voice trembling. "You love the idea of taking something that wasn't yours," I said coldly. Luke sighed, as if he was the victim. "Look, we didn't want to hurt you. Honestly, we just wanted to be happy." I laughed, not kindly. "You wanted an audience," I said. "You wanted applause. But all you've built is a stage set, hollow walls, and rented flowers." Then I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a slim black box. I handed it to Luke. "Open it later," I said softly. "Or let someone else do it. Either way, it's yours now." Emma narrowed her eyes. "What's in that box?" I smiled. "Proof." Then I faced the crowd again. "My grandmother left me her cottage," I said, raising my voice. "Some of you have been there, the lake house with the white shutters. Emma always wanted it. She told people it was still in probate, but it wasn't." I pulled out a folded document, the deed, and held it up. "I've had the deed in my name for 2 years. I paid the taxes. I renovated it. I kept it quiet because I thought, naively, that family would respect boundaries. I was wrong." I turned back to Emma. "As of this morning, it's officially mine. Taxes paid, deed refiled, and guess what? You're not welcome." Gasps again. One guest even clapped before stopping awkwardly. Emma's hands shook. "You're doing all this to humiliate me?" "No," I said. "You did that yourself. I'm just making sure the credits roll properly." Luke had opened the box. Inside, a framed photo of me and Grandma at the cottage, standing in front of the sold sign. Behind it, The deed dated, notarized, witnessed. He went pale. She left it to you, he muttered. Yes, I said. And now it's the only part of my life you won't ever touch. Then I turned to my parents. My mother looked stricken. My father avoided my gaze. You knew, I said quietly. Didn't you? My mother blinked. We thought it was just a gesture. Emma said you were too overwhelmed to continue planning. We didn't want to interfere. I took a slow step forward. You watched your older daughter get publicly erased. And you clapped. My father stood. This is enough. You're turning this into a spectacle. Oh, Dad, I said, letting out a dry laugh. This was a spectacle. I'm just giving it a better script. Emma rushed toward me suddenly, voice shaking. Do you think this makes you better than me? That you're the victim? You always had everything, the grades, the job, the approval, and you had me. I snapped. You had my protection, my patience, my help. You just didn't want my success. You wanted my place. Luke stepped forward, trying to grab her wrist. Maybe we should just know, I said. Let them finish. Let her hear it, Emma, I said, voice calm now, eerily so. You didn't steal a man. You stole my time, my choices, my trust, and you threw it into the crowd like confetti. She opened her mouth to speak, but I was already walking away. As I reached the edge of the lawn, I turned back one last time. To everyone watching, enjoy the show, I said. Because when this crumbles and it will just remember who held the blueprint. Then I stepped into the night. No tears, no regrets, just silence behind me until a voice, soft and small, called out. It was my little cousin, the same one who always drew cards for me on my birthday, even when no one else did. You were the real bride, she whispered. I smiled. Yes, I said. And now I get to write a new story. Today's. That's how long it took for the news to explode across social media. One of my old coworkers posted a blurry video from the ceremony. It caught everything: my walk down the aisle, the confrontation, Luke opening the box, the guests gasping. It got 300,000 views in 48 hours. The caption: when your sister steals your fiancé and you steal the finale. I didn't post it. I didn't comment. I didn't even watch it fully. But I saw what followed. Emma's Instagram went silent. Luke deleted his entirely. By Monday, vendors were calling me directly. The venue, the florist, even the caterer. All of them wanted to confirm if I was still using their services. Apparently, Emma and Luke had promised alternate payment arrangements which never existed. So guess who got stuck with the final invoices? Not me. I emailed every single one of them with copies of the police report, fraud, identity misuse, digital evidence, financial records. Oh, and screenshots of Emma's fake email address. Turns out she'd used my old Gmail template and just swapped the name. Amateur mistake. I didn't press charges. I didn't have to, because her life was already unraveling, thread by stolen thread. The venue blacklisted her. The florist posted a cryptic message about liars and thieves in their Insta stories. Even the photographer shared a behind-the-scenes story, a silhouetted shot of me walking away in black with the caption, "True elegance is never loud. It just leaves an echo." I moved out the next week, not because I had to own my apartment, but because I wanted a clean start. So I packed everything that still felt like mine and left the furniture I'd once picked for us to gather dust. Let Emma and Luke sort through what's left, the echo of their own choices. My new place. The cottage. Yeah, that cottage. I moved in alone. Brought my books, my dog, my record player. No apologies, no explanations, just peace, for the first time. In years, I could hear my own thoughts again. And you know what I realized? I wasn't sad. I was free. My mornings were no longer filled with planning someone else's breakfast or checking someone else's calendar. I didn't have to make room in the closet or pretend I liked takeout 3 times a week. I didn't have to chase affection or justify my joy. I was rebuilding, not from scratch, from strength. Emma tried to call 3 times. I didn't answer. She texted once. Can we please talk? I deleted it. She even showed up at the cottage one evening, standing outside the gate, with this tragic look, like she was the one left at the altar. I didn't mean for it to go that far, she said. I stared at her from the porch. You rehearsed it, I said. You dressed in white and printed invitations. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. You didn't fall, I said. You leapt, and you thought I'd catch you like I always did. She blinked. But I won't, I said softly. Not this time. Then I turned, walked inside, and locked the door. She hasn't come back, My parents, oh, they tried to mediate. Dad left me a voicemail that said, "She's your sister. You only get one." I sent him a photo of the invoices she'd forged. He didn't reply. Mom wrote me a long email, emotional, dramatic, about family, forgiveness, and how this wasn't really Emma's fault. I replied with one line: "If you raise a storm and someone gets wet, that's not the rain's fault." I haven't heard from them since, but I've heard from others. 2 cousins reached out. One apologized for cheering at the wedding. Another sent me a bouquet, the kind I'd originally ordered for myself, said she wanted to send what should have been mine. My boss at work gave me a promotion. Apparently, standing your ground with dignity in public scandal can translate into crisis leadership. Who knew? I started therapy not because I was broken, but because I wanted to build better walls. Boundaries, not to keep people out, but to protect the parts of me I'd buried for others. Like my ambition, my creativity, my peace. I started painting again. I'd stopped when Luke said, "It's kind of a messy hobby, isn't it?" Now I hang my work on the cottage walls, and it's beautiful. Last week, I had dinner with an old friend, someone I hadn't seen since college. We talked for hours, laughed like we were teenagers again. At the end, he walked me to my car and said, "I always knew you were the strong one." I smiled. "I just didn't know how strong," I said, "because that's the thing they don't tell you about being betrayed. It feels like fire at first, scorching, wild, but after the smoke clears, you see who you really are. Not the sister, not the planner, not the shadow, but the flame." And I'm done being afraid of burning. I never got a proper apology. Not from Emma, not from Luke, not even from the parents who clapped when my future was hijacked in front of a live audience. But I didn't need one, because I stopped needing permission to exist. The old me, she would have begged for understanding. She would have sat across from Emma in a cafe, ordered tea, and tried to talk it out. She would have told Luke, "I just want to understand why that girl is gone." The old me disappeared with that betrayal, and I chose to rebuild. What rose in her place? Someone who doesn't ask for closure. She writes it. It took weeks after the wedding for the social media storm to settle. Everyone had an opinion, friends, strangers, even co-workers who had barely spoken to me before. Some call me cold. Why humiliate them like that? Others said I was a hero. You handled it with dignity. I didn't care, because all that mattered was one fact: I was finally living for myself. Not for Emma's validation, not for Luke's fragile ego, not for family approval wrapped in manipulation. Just me. And here's what happened. When I finally made that choice, I cut off the last financial tether. I sold every shared asset I had with Luke, even the ones I paid for in full, just to wash my hands clean. I turned down every coffee catch-up Emma tried to initiate. She tried to show up at my new job once, thinking the receptionist wouldn't recognize her. She was wrong. I had her escorted out. My parents sent me a letter, long, guilt-laced, filled with "You misunderstood, and Emma made mistakes, but so have you." I sent it back unopened, with one sticky note on top: "Respect isn't a family heirloom. You don't inherit it, you earn it." I didn't just burn bridges. I built new cities. The cottage. I planted things. Literally raised garden beds, a patio swing, a bird feeder I made with my own hands. I even painted one of the guest rooms emerald green, bold and unapologetic. Just like me, I started saying yes to things that scared me. Yes to solo travel. I spent 3 weeks in Portugal, something I'd postponed for years because Luke didn't like flying. Yes to new friendships, ones that didn't hinge on shared history or blood, but on real connection. Yes to myself, the person I kept shelving to make others comfortable. One night, deep into autumn, I got a message from a woman I didn't know. Her name was Claire. She said she used to work with Emma, that she'd been at the wedding. "I just wanted to say," she wrote, "you weren't just brave. You were right. I saw what they did, and I'm sorry. You inspired me to leave a toxic engagement. Thank you." That message did more for me than anything my own sister ever said. It reminded me sometimes the fallout isn't destruction, it's direction. And the story doesn't end when someone steals your chapter. It begins when you take the pen back. I published my first essay 6 months later, a memoir piece. It went viral. People called it a manifesto for boundary builders. A literary agent reached out. Now I'm working on a book about women who walk away, not just from betrayal, but from the roles they were forced into. I'm not the scorned bride anymore. I'm the one who turned a wedding theft into a career pivot. Emma can keep her fairy tale ending, if it even lasts. Luke can keep his recycled promises. I'm not interested in revenge, because success is louder than any apology. And peace? Peace is the loudest silence there is.